Alright gang, 15 bad blind buys according to you. These are fragrances that you guys bought and hated. They were really bad blind buys. Basically, I'm going to break it down for you, talk about the fragrances, the 15 different fragrances and what I think about them. There are fragrances here that I don't like either. There are fragrances here that I do like. And there's some fragrances here that I like but I don't love. So find out about these 15 bad blind buy fragrances coming right up. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian. Yes, today we're talking about 15 bad blind buys according to you guys. And I have most of the fragrances here myself. A couple of them that I don't really care for, I don't have, and I'll tell you about them. But definitely it's a challenge to blind buy, and there are times that it goes bad. And the thing is, when I review fragrances and I rave about them, there are fragrances that I really love. In some of the fragrances I buy or that are sent to me, you should always definitely get a sample, buy a sample, find a sample, smell it at a store, because there's fragrances out there that you might not click with a specific note or something in it, and the whole fragrance can be, a really bad blind buy. So I'll let you know about these, but before I do though, if this is your first time tuning into this channel, as always, if you haven't subscribed, please do click the subscribe button below, and also click the bell so that you'll be notified for future videos and giveaways. So let me know, before I move forward with the fragrances, is there a recent bad blind buy that you guys, a fragrance you bought online or somewhere, you ordered it and it came and you hated it? Like, you hated the freaking fragrance, you either got rid of it somehow, sold it, I don't know, something. Let me know, put a comment down so I can find out. So the first fragrance I'm going to talk to you about is from the house of Louis Vuitton. This is called California Dream here. I reviewed this particular fragrance, was it? In 2021, I think I reviewed it. Now I'm drawing. No, this was in 2020. This came out in 2020 during the height of the pandemic. But you know what? This is pretty good when you first spray it, and then it just becomes really metallic. But the comment or the question or the email that I received, it says, LV California Dream is really bad. I actually gave it away today to my assistant as a gift with an emoji of some kind, like a crying or laughing emoji. Yeah, this is not one of the better Louis Vuitton Fresh Cologne collection fragrance. It is definitely very sharp and metallic, but I like its initial blast. It's just not really exciting, because when I wear it, it's just kind of not disturbing, but a little off-putting, and not in a bad way, just in a very sharp and metallic way. It's like the softness and the pretty citrus experience up top just kind of disappears. So is it a yay? It's not a yay, it's not a nay, it's right in the middle. So it could have been better. It's not amazing, it's decent. So that's my thoughts on California Dream from Louis Vuitton. What are your thoughts on that one? So this next fragrance is from the house of Tiziana Terenzi. This is the message I received. Draco by Tiziana Terenzi would have easily been the worst blind buy ever in life. I had to bathe immediately after I sprayed it on my wrist. I luckily went for Andromeda instead. I have a bottle of Draco. It's not necessarily my favorite of his fragrances. There's definitely a bunch of different fragrances that he has. This is definitely not one of them. It seems overly woody with some woody, like fruitiness there, kind of reminding me a little bit of something like KURKDJIAN, but in a different direction. But once again, with this one, it's neither a nay or a yay. It's right down in the middle. I can tolerate it. I don't really hate it. I didn't blind buy it, but if you did, you probably experienced this, or maybe you loved it. I don't know. But Draco, again, it's right down the middle. It's not a bad fragrance for me, and it's not an amazing fragrance for me. My favorite from this house is still Ursa in the same kind of bottle, but this is Draco. And again, it's not a wow fragrance for me. It's just an okay fragrance. But let me know if you're a fan of Draco. So the next fragrance I do not have. And this is a fragrance from the house of Clive Christian. It's 1872. I don't care for this fragrance either. It is... I'm glad I had smelled it and not blind buy it, because I used to frequent Saks Fifth Avenue here all the time, and they sell this brand there. But everybody went gaga over this particular fragrance, but I didn't care for it whatsoever. It has a very musty, old, sweaty, dirty, sour dish rag kind of a smell to me. I don't know. It's just a very unpleasant fragrance, and it's sad because their fragrances seem to be great, some of them, but I also never clicked with this particular brand. This comment or question came as, my worst blind buy, Clive Christian 1872. Can't get to like it, bottle still full. Are you a fan of 1872? Now, a lot of you guys have been asking me to do videos on this house. I don't know, for some reason I just don't click with this house. I don't get it. There are houses I don't click with. I don't know. There were a couple of fragrances that I bought from the house that I liked, and then they just kind of disappeared, the fragrances, and then recently, like 3 to 5 years ago, they reformulated everything and relaunched in new versions, and I was like, you guys had some pretty decent fragrances. Now your fragrances don't even smell that great. They've kind of been modernized and smell very generic. They're not even really worth the kind of expensive price tag that they should be charging. Don't get me wrong, there are some fragrances from this house that I do like, but generally I don't click with the house. I don't know. Do you guys click with the house of Clive Christian? Do let me know. Put a comment down. But 1872 is definitely a no-no for me as well. I don't care for it. So this next one is from the house of ZARA. The comment reads, forgot to mention my worst blind buy, ZARA Rich Warm Addictive. I know everyone loves this, but I found it so thick, sweet, and rich, it made me nauseous. Sold it on eBay. I recently bought the latest version of it. I can see that there are differences between the version from 2017, I believe it was, or 2016 when I first got it, to this. It's definitely lighter. Maybe you might like this one, but it still has its sweetness. It still has its kind of honeyed, coconutty, whatever tobacco that's supposed to be in there, in here. But you know, I do enjoy this fragrance. I really think it's a great fragrance. It's sweet, it's gooey, it's vanillic, it's syrupy, it's ambery. Very, very warm and cozy fragrance. It's not for everyone. I think maybe the sweetness can become overwhelming for some folks, even in this new version as well. But it's a great bed scent if you like the idea of coziness and relaxation and, you know, thinking of like these comforting foods that you might think of having, like going to your mom's house or something. This kind of has that kind of reaction. There's just something comforting about it. But I can see why this one is overwhelmingly sweet for some people. I think it's a great fragrance for the price point. For 20 bucks, I think it's worth it. That's Rich Warm Addictive by the house of ZARA. Now the other one in this collection, I don't care for whatsoever. I think it's a dud. It's just, for me, it's like just screechy woods with some sweetness and spice in it. Whereas this one is soft, creamy, gooey, syrupy, as I said, very cozy. The other one, I can just totally skip over. I don't care for it whatsoever. All right, this next fragrance is from the house of LABO. It's SANTAL 33. So here we go with another nay or a yay. This one actually is very polarizing for a lot of people. You either really love this one or do not like this one at all. I'm in the middle. Once again, I'm in the middle. The comment says, my worst blind buy has to be LABO SANTAL 33. I got it based on the hype, but I just couldn't get past that pickle smell. I guess there is a little bit of a sour pickly smell, but it's definitely the papyrus or cypriol note that's in here with the sandalwood. The sandalwood is a little medicinal in here. It's crunchy, it's crisp, it's not creamy whatsoever. I do enjoy creamy sandalwood compared to this kind of chips or chip woods kind of a sandalwood experience. But for me, it's a love it or hate it. Like sometimes I can't stand the smell. I kind of agree with this comment. And sometimes I like it. I like it. I don't love it. I've never really loved it. But I like having it for clients to come in and experience and things like that. And I could totally see the pickly kind of smell in here. So it makes sense. LABO SANTAL 33. Are you a fan? I think that is the fragrance that put LABO on the map, though. That's very popular. Very. Are you a fan? Let me know. Put a comment down. This next fragrance I do not have. But I did a blind buy of this fragrance myself as well. Early on in my journey, probably around 2013. It's MONTALE's Chocolate Greedy. I got it, and I hated it to the max. It smelled like stale bread with chocolate. I don't know why. I'm slowly warming up to it, slowly, very slowly, but I don't currently own it. And in fact, that fragrance ruined chocolate fragrances for me for quite a long time. I kind of hated it because I smelled this kind of rotten, you know, moldy kind of bread with chocolate kind of an experience. I don't know where I got that from. But MONTALE Chocolate Greedy is the worst blind buy. Low-cost synthetic aroma for cakes. That's what the comment says. But yeah, I agree with this one. But I have to be honest, I am warming up to it slowly. I recently sampled it at ZGO Perfumery because how chocolate greedy ruined chocolate fragrances for me, then I started appreciating chocolate fragrances outside of MONTALE's chocolate greedy. I am slowly kind of warming up to it, but initially I had to get rid of my bottle because I just didn't care for it whatsoever. That rotten, moldy kind of bread thing with chocolate was very, very disappointing. But let me know if you're a fan of this one. I know MONTALE gets a lot of hype, but there are the haters. A lot of people complain about synthetic. A lot of MONTALE fragrances are synthetic. And here's the thing I should say. If you think MONTALE fragrances are synthetic, then if they made them all natural, those fragrances would never last. MONTALE fragrances have some of the best performance ever. And making fragrances smell all natural, yeah, it might smell better, but are they going to last? All natural fragrances do not last on me whatsoever. They disappear right away. But there are the rare occasions, the rare exceptions, but I think the reason these things last a long time is they do use a lot of synthetics. Maybe that's why I didn't care for this chocolate greedy, because it did smell kind of synthetic. I don't know. All right, moving on to the next fragrance, worst blind buy for you guys. This is one of your worst blind buys. This is a fragrance I really love, and I talk about it all the time, and I also praise it for the fact that it's one of the best cheapies out there. This is Bentley for Men Intense. The comment says, worst blind buy was Bentley Intense. It was not at all what I expected after watching many review videos. You know, it's a warm, spicy, ambery, smoky, leathery fragrance. I absolutely think it's one of the best, especially for the price tag. And the booziness, I can't forget about the booziness. This is a great, great creation. One of the best from Nathalie Lorson. She did a great job for this one. And for the price point, I think it's definitely worth the suggested retail price, which is around $100 for 100 ml. I like its warmth, I like its spiciness, I like its booziness, and that smokiness as well. And for me, Bentley for Men Intense always kind of reminded me of a duo combined together of Le Bain's Idole, the fragrance, and then also Chambre Noire from Olfactive Studio. They kind of smelled like the two were put together. Man, that's probably not what happened, but they reminded me of those two fragrances together, and probably more of Idole from Le Bain and a little bit of the Chambre Noire from Olfactive Studio. But I know there are a lot of fans of this one out there. I just don't know why this was a bad blind buy for this person. But I could also say something like sometimes palettes need to be a little opened up to appreciate all kinds of fragrances. When I was not doing fragrance reviews, and early on in my lifetime of smelling fragrances, I probably didn't appreciate every single fragrance. I mean, I don't appreciate every single fragrance, but sometimes there are things that I don't like and I don't like the smell of, but I have opened up my palette to appreciate all kinds of fragrances and styles and genres and notes. I love a lot of different notes. And for someone that might be used to like 1 or 2 or 3 kinds of smells, something like this might be just a little overwhelming. And that's what my thought is. But either way, I think it's a great fragrance. I really do love Bentley for Men Intense. And it's disappointing that this person didn't have a great experience with it. All right, the next fragrance I'm going to talk to you about is from the house of Frederic Malle. This is Carnal Flower. And this comment was, Carnal Flower, oh my god, this is intense, worst blind buy ever, absolutely hate this one. Pew. I could see why. It's an intense fragrance. I don't think it's as intense as it used to be at one time, but it is definitely tuberose overload, lots of it, with the coconutty touch in here. And then there's also the eucalyptus touch. There's definitely a greenness you can smell here, a little camphoric, a little spicy, but it's actually really, really delicious. It's a great smelling fragrance. I really love this tuberose. This is probably the king of tuberose fragrances. A lot of people think that this is one of the best tuberose fragrances out there. I agree. It's definitely great. It's created by one of my favorite perfumers, Dominique Ropion, and he did a great job with this one. Maybe it's just overly intense, or the version they got, maybe it was pre-Estee Lauder, and it was just overwhelming with its potency and things like that, and that kind of thing can actually turn people off. And some people that are not used to smelling such strong fragrances, and they're used to the stuff at the department store where generally they're eau de toilette and things like that, and they have a certain percentage of a concentration, and this came off really, really intense, and maybe they put put them off. But I think it's a great scent myself. Let me know if you're a fan of it. Let me know if you're a woman, if you're a fan of it. Let me know if you're a man and you're a fan of it. And do you like to wear tuberose? Definitely spicy. I feel like there's definitely something clove or cinnamony like note in here, but also that the note of eucalyptus is pretty prominent here, and I think maybe that's what's creating the spice in here. A great scent. This is Carnal Flower from the house of Frederic Malle. This next fragrance, the comment reads, "My worst blind buy, AZZARO Wanted by Night. Yuck." So that's this fragrance right here. So I don't hate this fragrance. I also don't love it. It's one of those fragrances. And I didn't care for AZZARO Wanted at all. I thought AZZARO Wanted by Night, because of the cinnamon, was a little more special. But for me, I don't think it's the worst fragrance. I wouldn't say yuck to it, but it's not like a fragrance I go, oh my god, this is the best smelling fragrance ever. I can't wait to wear it again and again and then again and again. It's not one of those fragrances. In fact, after I reviewed this fragrance, did I ever wear it? Probably not. It's very mass for sure, but I like the cinnamon in here for some reason. It's quite spicy. But in the background, you can still smell the original, which I really didn't care for. But let me know if you're a fan of AZZARO Wanted by Night. Do you enjoy that fragrance, or maybe you don't enjoy that fragrance? Put a comment down so I can find out. So this comment was, "I can't stand amber. I blind bought Grand Soir. Worst buy ever. My second worst buy is PDM Carlisle." So if you don't like amber, you gotta stay away from amber fragrances. Or maybe you didn't know you didn't care for amber and you bought Grand Soir and you were like, nope, I don't care for amber. What is it about amber that you might not like? I like its warmth and resinous and, you know, smoky and vanillic, you know, sweet touches. I really do enjoy ambers a lot. It's probably a top 5 favorite note or style of fragrance. But I could see that people are not into this kind of fragrance. Maybe it's just overwhelming, overly sweet, overly smoky. This is pretty sweet. But also, I think Grand Soir is probably one of the easiest ambers to wear. Not the most easiest or the easiest, but definitely it's not something like, I don't know, Maître Parfumé Gantier is even stronger with its spices and also its aromatics in there. There are other ambers out there that are a little more animalic and things like that as well. This, I think, is fairly easy to wear, but if you're not used to the sweet, resinous, you know, vanillic, ambery experiences, you're not gonna, you know, appreciate this fragrance. The other thing is, it's also a bit powdery, but for me, I always get this kind of chocolate dusting on top of the, when I'm wearing it, I experience like the chocolatey cacao kind of a light hint in there. I don't know why, but I really think it's a great scent. I think he did a great job with this one. But sadly, they discontinued Absolute Pour Le Soir, which is probably something that this person is not going to appreciate at all if this person doesn't like Grand Soir. They're definitely not going to appreciate Absolute Pour Le Soir, because that goes into the musky animalic direction, even though I think it's super, super sexy. Anyway, Grand Soir, do you enjoy this particular fragrance? Let me know. So this next one, we're going into some classic men's fragrances. I can understand why these are hated on. Ted Lapidus for men. They wrote in the comment, "Ted Lapidus Pour Homme, the worst blind buy in my life. Direct to the rubbish." Kind of didn't understand that, but it makes sense, you know, going into the trash. I can see why this is hated. I don't know the age of this person, first of all. This came out in the mid-80s. I think it was 1986. So it definitely smells mature. It's not something, this is not a fragrance they would sell at the department stores now, like Macy's and places like that, where the fragrance styles are totally different. This is very, very intense as well, and a bit animalic, and also I think it's a fougere or type of a fragrance, but it's a sweet honeyed fougere. It's got honey, and then I think there's also the pineapple note in here, and a lot of spices and aromatics. As I can see why, if this person is like in his early 20s, which I couldn't figure out from the you know, profile photo, this is probably going to smell very, very old, like grandpa or dad or something. The other thing is, if their palate is not opened up, like if you're young and you've been experiencing fragrances a lot and you've, you know, sampled a lot, you're going to stores, buying samples, getting samples, trading samples, decants and things like that, you might appreciate something like this. But if you're just used to what's popular and you go to this, it's not going to have a very positive reaction with you. I like this fragrance. It reminds me of my teens, mid-teens. I was in my teens when this came out. And it's definitely a historic fragrance. Ted Lapidus for Men. So this next fragrance is also a classic. And actually the weird thing is it's kind of related. They're from the same company, I believe. This is BOGART One Man Show. This comment was, "Hi, you should try BOGART One Man Show. My God, it is awful to me and the worst thing I have ever bought as blind buy." This came out in the 70s, late 70s or mid 70s. So it is really, really older. I mean, very, very old. It's like almost 50 years old, One Man Show. So it's aromatics and spices. It's kind of a barbershop-y fragrance, but with the animalics and things like that, leather and things like that. So this can totally turn off somebody. Just like the last fragrance, if you're a young nose and you're not experienced with a lot of different fragrances, don't do blind buys on classic fragrances if somebody's saying, "Oh my God, it's the best fragrance ever." If you're just used to stuff at the department stores, what's popular out there, what your friends are wearing currently, you know, hyped fragrances, don't buy this, don't buy this. They're not going to satisfy. Unless your palette is wide open and you've tested so many fragrances. The only way you're going to start liking fragrances is you keep testing them over and over and over again. Some of these people that wrote these comments might go back 5 years later and say this is the best fragrance because they come back to it. I've come back to it. I've circled back to fragrances that I've thought were really, really bad. Now I really love them. So most likely that'll happen with a lot of noses as well. Anyway, this is a BOGART One Man Show. Are you a fan of these two classic fragrances? Let me know. Put a comment down. Alright, next up, going to the house of MANCERA. It's Hindu Kush. So this is a fragrance that garners me major compliments. And the comment says, "One of my worst blind buys is Hindu Kush." Again, it's a palette thing. If you're, I hype this one a lot because I think I get compliments from it, and also I feel like the sillage with this one is super sexy, and the fact that it's kind of a deeper, richer fragrance, and plus it works great in the heat, even better for me because heat makes this fragrance come alive, leaves a trail. It's a sexy trail, and then it garners compliments because that's exactly when I get compliments with this one. If I ever wear this particular fragrance when it's really cold outside, it's not going to do that reaction unless, you know, I've been walking around and heating up my body. But I could see that it is a turn off. You know, it's not that unpleasant. Maybe it's supposed to have cannabis as a note. Maybe the person that bought it is a lot more sensitive to cannabis as a note or something. But it's very creamy woody in here. There's patchouli and I believe there's guaiac wood and of course that cannabis note. Let me know if you're a fan of this one. If you hate it, let me know. Put a comment down. I'd like to find out because I really love that particular fragrance. This next fragrance is another classic from the mid-90s. Mid to late 90s, Versace's Dreamer. So the comment was, "Then and now, Dreamer is one of the worst smelling fragrances." Then and now, I think they're referring to the fact that this came out in the mid to late 90s, then it was brought back around 2010 in a new reformulated version. So for me, when I wore it in the late 90s, it was more of a very robust, barbershop-y tobacco fragrance. And the tobacco in here is not necessarily the ashy kind, it's the leafy kind. So you don't experience like tobacco vanille ashy tobacco. It's just more of the leafy kind of woody, earthy kind of a experience here. And of course it was with the barbershop-y kind of fougere experience. I believe that they've watered it down a lot in 2010 or whenever the reformulation happened. It's a lot lighter, but I guess some people don't like it. It might come off classic, but I think what they did is when they reformulated it, they modernized it a little bit and definitely diluted it down. But I think it's a great fragrance. I absolutely love this fragrance, but anyway, it's not for everyone. Versace Dreamer, check that out if you don't know it, and let me know if you're a fan of it. You can get that fragrance for about 30 bucks. Lots of testers out there, and they usually sell them for $28 to $35. I think it's a great price if you want to explore a great fragrance from the late 90s. Okay, the last fragrance I'm going to talk to you about is LOEWE's 001 Man. I guess it's an acquired taste for this one. LOEWE 001 Man is one of the worst designer fragrances I have ever smelled, followed by Versace Dylan Blue. I agree on Versace's Dylan Blue. I can't stand that stuff. But this stuff is super sexy. It's a powdery fragrance. It's a little vegetal, it's a little bitter, angelica, and also carrot seeds, and then also ambrette is in here as well. So it's a musky, powdery, vegetal fragrance created by Quinton Biche. I love this one, but I think it's not for everyone. Definitely it's not. It's kind of like a distant relative to something like Dior Homme Parfum or Dior Homme Intense, where it goes into more of a musky, vegetal direction, still keeping the powdery DNA. I recommend this one a lot. I think this is one of my all-time favorite designer fragrances from the last 5 to 10 years. It just smells great. It kind of, as I said, reminds me a little bit of Dior Homme line, and then it's different. You know, it's got that vegetal muskiness. Anyway, LOEWE One Man, are you a fan of that one? Do you guys enjoy the LOEWE fragrances? Not many people talk about it. It's a Spanish design house under LVMH. Let me know, put a comment down. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. Let me know your blind buys, your bad blind buys, and also tell me your good blind buys. I'd like to find out. And also, what are your thoughts on the fragrances I discussed with you today? Put a comment down so I can find out. Either way, guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.